It's a beautiful summer morning. The sun's already up high. It's uh, it's just this time of year. It's already getting a little warm out, a little hot. Uh, so it's all nice and calm. If that manatee is around, be a good time to see it. But anyhow, I saw a video yesterday, and I cannot remember the doctor's name, but he does a lot of videos and books and things like that. But I thought it was just the way he simplified this idea between explaining the difference between pleasure and happiness. I just really wanted to comment on that because he just did a really nice job. And so pleasure and happiness, he was relating it also to the endocrine system, to these neurotransmitters that are so important, dopamine and serotonin, and then also the hormone cortisol. So as our mind and body experience certain things, we release different neurotransmitters that generally have a certain role to play in the way that we are in our emotions, and not just our emotions, but also our behaviors. And the way he was explaining that the dopamine is the neurotransmitter that kind of rewards us for something. So that can be good if we're doing good things, but if we're doing things that are bad for us, then we don't. The dopamine has a negative consequence, and so that's why it's very important to develop good habits, because we want to develop habits that are in line with giving us a dopamine response for doing something that is productive in our life. If we do things that are not productive and are bad for us, like watching too much TV or scrolling too much social media or putting things into our body that stimulate dopamine but aren't doing anything healthy for us, that those are habits we don't want to build, and so, but that's where dopamine becomes very dangerous, is because we try to gain pleasure. That reward is what we call pleasure, and we can try to find ourselves shortcutting the best ways to get pleasure, and then that can be very, very bad for us. So pleasure is not happiness. Pleasure is simply a dopamine response. The happiness comes from the doing something, the results of what we are doing. So if we establish good habits and then we get a dopamine response to doing good things, which is what dopamine was originally intended by nature for, was to kind of reward us for, doing the things like gathering food or doing a good job and stuff like that. Then that dopamine is now in line with achieving happiness. So the happiness is the result of what we're doing. Whereas if we do something bad for us, that gives us a dopamine response, we get short-term pleasure, but we get no happiness. In fact, we get the opposite of happiness. We get misery. And so we don't want to do that. And then the serotonin, where that's important, is that balances the dopamine. So the serotonin kind of brings us back to earth, so to speak. And therefore, we want to create a good balance between, doing our habits like working out and exercising, or doing a good job with our occupation or our schoolwork, or helping other people. Helping other people will give us a dopamine response, being helpful, and then that will lead to happiness. But we also want to make sure that we're, getting the right amount of sleep and those kinds of things. So the serotonin kind of helps us not go overboard on the dopamine. And serotonin has a lot to do with our gut health, how we're treating our body. So in order to have the right amounts of dopamine in our system, serotonin, that has a lot to do with establishing or having the right balance of serotonin and dopamine. Has a lot to do with healthy habits and what we're eating, and how we're sleeping, the right amount of exercise, and doing all the good things. So when we're treating our body well and we're doing the right things, we're both encouraging a healthy level of serotonin and dopamine in our system, and we're getting the response and using the dopamine to help us maintain a steady course of good habits. And so where the conscious decisions come in is not doing things that reward the dopamine system, that are not going to bring us happiness, that are not good things. And then because that can get out of control really fast, because dopamine is extremely powerful. And when we start doing these things that aren't good for us, they also have the other consequence of probably down-regulating our serotonin. So we're fighting a double-edged, we're fighting on two fronts. It's both hurting our serotonin levels, and it's also stimulating our dopamine for the wrong things. And then when we overstimulate our dopamine, that's called dopaminergic system, the dopamine, we then unfortunately have to have more dopamine to get the same response, because our neurons down-regulate themselves against too much dopamine, and then therefore it requires more of the dopamine producing activity to get the feeling of the dopamine. So that's what we call tolerance. And then tolerance, if it's a bad habit or something, or like an addiction or something really bad like that, then it just makes it increase, the bad habit increase more. So you want to be on the path of doing positive and productive things, and things that, like whatever that might be, art and dancing and exercise, and whatever kind of work it is that you want to do, and rewarding yourself for doing good in your studies, and all of those kinds of things. Eating well, and being around good people, and people who all have a positive outlook on life, and that are motivated towards doing good things with their lives. I love you.